Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to another Q&A session. Today, I'm going to be answering some more of your questions that you left in the comment section of the series, as well as other questions you might have left on my channel. We are going to continue from last month. I do still have quite a lot of questions from you. So if you don't hear your question answered now, hang on tight. I might answer it at a different time. Let's try to go a little faster. Last time we did 10 questions. Let's try to do a little more today, right? Before we start, we have to do this. This video is sponsored by repotme.com, who offers you everything you could possibly need to properly take care of your orchid. From potting mixes to pots and fertilizers and accessories and pretty much everything in between. They have them all, and not only for orchids but also for other houseplants as well. So I'll link you to their website down below in the description and in the pinned comment. Feel free to check them out at any time. I will also share with you the products that I personally really enjoy. And without further ado, let us continue with the questions. Where did we leave off? I think here. Spoilers, I just filmed part 1. The orchid is still here, but I have some time today. So first question from Jade. Love your video so much. Thank you so much. I love you too. Is it possible to cause root burn with slow release fertilizer? Can I put too many granules in? Yes, it is absolutely possible. Not only the quantity of the slow release fertilizer matters, but also the fertilizer itself. Like many years ago, before I even had a YouTube channel with orchids, like 15 years ago, orchids were something very new for me. So I was using those slow release sticks that you find in flower shops to this day. And I burned the roots. I managed to make quite the dark patches on the roots. But now I'm using Osmocote and I have no issue with it, but I only use typically like a pinch, a few beads. I never like really measure. This stuff comes with a label. It has a measuring spoon, although mine doesn't, because I just bought it unpacked, let's say, from an orchid nursery, so I don't have the original packing. But they might even come with a spoon. They do have measurings or instructions. You should follow the instructions, but you know, at some point you get used to how much you need to add, so I add a little pinch of this and it's absolutely fine. But yeah, you should definitely be careful with slow release fertilizer, not to overdo it. With anything in this world, as good as it might be, if you overdo it, it can be very bad. So yeah, just be careful and never add more than the label suggests. You can add less if you don't feel comfortable. Next question from Malady. Hi Danny, I hope all is well. Thank you so much. It is. I hope all is well with you as well. My brain hurt a little bit. I don't think that was a proper phrase that I made. Anyway, thank you so much for this information. I have a Phalaenopsis, fantastic, that's a great name, Magdalene Earl cotton candy, which formed a terminal spike, which also bloomed. Someone told me that hopefully it will give me keikis so that it will live on. That is true. It could give you a keiki. I don't know what a keiki looks like. Can you please talk about terminal spikes and keikis, why they form and what to look for? Should I be worried because it formed a terminal spike? I'm not sure if you have a video on this. I don't know. I honestly don't know if I have a video on a terminal spike per se and discussing about it. If I do, I'll link it to it down below. I have more than 2,000 videos. I don't remember all of them. So let me tell you a little bit about them really fast now. All Phalaenopsis orchids are capable of producing a terminal spike, which is a spike that grows from the crown. The problem with these spikes is that they destroy the crowns, most often than not. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they wiggle like in between the leaves. That's great news because the orchid will still be able to grow leaves, but sometimes they completely destroy the crown. It doesn't mean that they will kill the orchid. However, the orchid will not have an apex anymore, so it will need to create a new one. What it will do is try to create, first and foremost, a keiki on the flower spike, because it's the highest most point. It's the apex. It's the top of the orchid at this point. If that fails, it will try to create a keiki somewhere down. Like if you cut the flower spike or something happens and the flower spike dries, it will try to create a keiki basally. Whatever the case might be, chances are your orchid will create a keiki and will try to live on. Now, a keiki is a baby plant, and I do have videos on keikis. I will link you to some down below that talks more about separation of the keiki and things of the sorts. And should you be worried that your orchid formed a terminal spike? No, there's no reason to worry. It is true that some hybrids are more prone to producing terminal spikes. I'm looking at you, Soft Cloud. But just because your orchid created a terminal spike doesn't mean it's prone necessarily. Because if you think about it, all these hybrids are prone to it. And there are just and there are just a handful known ones. What is happening? Trying to talk. And there are just a handful of known ones that do it. So don't worry about it, but yeah, treat the orchid normally, properly care for it, and wait out for a keiki. Next question from Jennifer Green. Hi Danny, what do you use to fertilize? Is it Miracle-Gro Orchid Spray good? Alrighty, I actually wanted to address this question because I don't know if you noticed, but I don't usually use orchid sprays or foliar feeding and things of the sorts. I might do a separate video on it at some point. It is highly inefficient in the way we grow them in our living rooms. Not talking about greenhouses and other things, even improvised greenhouses, but potted like this in our living room, it is absolutely not efficient to foliar feed for many reasons that I will get to in a different video. Just to keep it short today though, Miracle-Gro Orchid Spray Food, it could be Miracle-Gro, it could be MSU. And I love MSU. I don't suggest you foliar feed if you have your orchids in a living room. Again, if you have a greenhouse, if you can make sure that there is high humidity and that the nutrients stay wet on the leaves, sure, different story, absolutely. But in a living room, it's not efficient. Your orchid food will dry on the leaf in the next 10 minutes to 30 minutes, and it will become inaccessible for the orchid. The orchid will not absorb that food maybe at all, because some of these orchids are, I'm gonna get into some details I didn't want to keep it short. Just so you know, some orchids do not absorb much through their stomatas during the day. So you would have to spray at night, which is a no-no because you might actually rot the crown and the stem, because at night it's a little cooler, water doesn't evaporate. So on one side, oh yeah, we're gonna give the orchid some food. Who knows how much it will absorb, but you're gonna risk some rotting. Is it worth it? I don't think it is. So when it comes to spraying orchid fertilizer, I don't think anybody should do it that grows orchids in their living rooms because it's inefficient and it's potentially dangerous. Stick to the root fertilization. It's much safer for the orchid, and also you are guaranteed that the orchid will absorb those nutrients through the roots. Next question from Sandra. Hi Danny, I love your videos very much. I had an idea to grow terrestrial orchids, still haven't decided which ones, in a flower bed at my balcony. I live in Greece. I think our climates are pretty similar. The weather is temperate, oh no, North Greece, and the flower bed I'm thinking about has direct sunlight all day long. In summertime, I use a canopy to shield it from the sunlight. Do you find it doable? Which orchids would be appropriate for that? Thank you very much for all the information you share with us. Oh gosh, I think I'm gonna be a bit useless because I don't have much experience with terrestrial orchids that are suited in this environment, but did you know you have native orchids in Greece? And there are some that are not, to my understanding, they're not protected, or they are also available in cultivation. I think it's called Orchids. It's one that looks like a bumblebee. That one, for sure, it can grow in the soil and in your climate, and it's beautiful. I never purchased it because I guess I didn't have the opportunity to. We have some orchids native here as well, but I am not touching them. I don't need them. They should be where they belong, not in my pots. But other than that, honestly, I'm not the best with terrestrial orchids. Look into Phaeus. What other terrestrial orchids do I know? Something like cypripediums and stuff, I think those are more for cooler environments. I don't have hands-on experience with them, so I don't know for a fact. So I'm pretty useless, as you can see. But I wanted to tell you about that Greek native orchid. Maybe it's available there, maybe in flower shops, I don't know. I really don't know. But look into it and see if you can obtain one legally. And exactly under what conditions it grows, because chances are you can grow it perfectly. How can I stop my Cattleya Chantilly Sprinkle from producing accordion leaves? The last 3 pseudobulbs all had this problem. I just water it when it's dry. The roots are very prone to rotting, but now it has a few healthy roots. Accordion leaves on a Cattleya. That doesn't happen often, does it? I would understand if it was an oncidium. So what I can imagine, and you have to tell me if I'm correct, is that the leaf gets a little trapped in that sheath and it becomes a little distorted. It is definitely a hydration issue. Whenever orchid leaves don't form properly, accordion shaped or not, sometimes they're like rounds even, it is a hydration issue. There isn't enough, is it called turgor? There isn't enough fluid pressure within the orchid to properly inflate, if you will, those leaves, it's a water issue. So your problems start from the roots. The roots are very prone to rotting. Now, either the roots are prone to rotting or there is a problem with the potting mix, or maybe the water you use, maybe the fertilizer. Something is affecting those roots. It might be that it as an individual is just not that vigorous. It can happen, but first let's not think about that. First, let's see if we can fix something in its environment. The potting mix, is it fresh? Is it old? Is it a good quality potting mix? Yes, no, see what we can do there. If the answer is no, it's not fresh, and no, it doesn't look like good quality, change it. Bark and moss, even moss, sphagnum moss, best grow moss. If you can get away with moss, absolutely fine for Cattleya orchids. Make it very fluffy, you should be great. Then see about the water. What type of water are you using? Is it tap water? Do you have, depending on where you live, do you have additives in the water like fluoride? Do you have excessive amounts of maybe chlorine or chloramine? Is it hard water, and so on? What type of fertilizer are you using? Are you over fertilizing, and so on? Something is affecting those roots, and because the orchid doesn't really have a proper root system, it cannot hydrate itself properly and it cannot grow properly. So maybe that's why you're experiencing misshaped leaves. So I would start with the roots. I think that is the cause, and just look at your environment and assess these things that I told you about. Next step. Danny, will wrinkle leaves, another wrinkle leaf question, and pods, I'm guessing pseudobulbs, become normal after the orchid is rehydrated, or do they remain wrinkled forever? And do the pod, pseudobulb, will fill up with water, and do I water every other day? Thanks. All right, so let's try to start from somewhere. Orchids that have been dehydrated, for example, Phalaenopsis, they get wrinkles in the leaves. Once they hydrate themselves, yes, those wrinkles will disappear. Will the leaves look like they belong in a beauty contest? Maybe no. Maybe there will be some signs that at some point the leaf was struggling, but you shouldn't see like severe wrinkles unless the leaf is on its way out. So the orchid didn't even bother to rehydrate that leaf. As well as pseudobulbs, yes, they will plump back, but with pseudobulbs, it will be more visible that at some point they have been maybe a little bit dehydrated. You will see some of the lines. Sometimes the pseudobulbs will actually crack. It's okay, don't worry about it. I have a few. It happens. If they get very shriveled and then they rehydrate suddenly, they can crack under like the pressure, but that's okay. So yes, these structures do come back to normal, quote unquote. They will not look maybe as pristine as they could look, but they will look absolutely fantastic. Don't worry about it. And do you have to water every other day? No, you have to water whenever you have to water. Typically, like, I cannot generalize for optimum results, but I will try to give you an idea. When your orchid is dry, water it. That is a rule that will work, not optimally, but safely for all orchids. Next question. Okay, this might be the last question we take for today because there are a few questions here. Hey Danny, I have been a subscriber of yours, can I read today, for years. Sadly, not enough time to watch all the videos. That's okay. I have questions. One, let's take them one by one. I'm gonna answer as we go. Do we have to use warm water? What do you do? I do not water any orchid with warm water. Will warm water hurt? No. Will it really help? No. The idea is not to really water it with very cold water. Yes, that can actually affect, maybe in time, maybe not all at once, but it will start to affect the structures, or actually the cells, especially the roots, the cells of the orchid. Even though the velamen is covered in a layer of dead cells, at some point if the water is too cold, it will make its way to the live, let's say, tissue. So the problem is with very cold water and very hot water, absolutely. But exactly the temperature of it, that's, variable. I don't use lukewarm water or anything, but to keep it safe, that's what we say in the beginner tutorials, just so people do not use cold water, because it can happen. And especially in winter time, sometimes at the faucet, the water is so icy, it's so cold. So that's why we say lukewarm water, but it doesn't necessarily need to be warm. And I just realized I didn't actually answer to the first part of your question on why your orchid didn't bloom for 5 years. Well, it doesn't have to do with the water or the temperature of the water you use. It has to do with the ambiental temperature that needs to drop a little bit after the growing season, after summer. So in autumn or winter, actually Phalaenopsis orchids are induced into blooming by a tiny drop in temperature to 17-18 degrees Celsius. I'm gonna put Fahrenheit on the screen because I don't know how to convert on the spot. So a few weeks of these temperatures at night, you don't have to give them all the time, all day long, that should induce new flower spikes. And typically when we grow Phalaenopsis orchids in our home, we tend to keep temperatures warm or very even all of the time. And many people do actually have issues reblooming their Phalaenopsis if temperatures are not fluctuating, especially in the nighttime, to these lower temperatures. I have an entire video about reblooming Phalaenopsis, which if you have time, you can watch it. I'll link you to it down below. But my main suspicion whenever somebody tells me they cannot bloom their Phalaenopsis is a temperature related issue, and that drop in temperature in the autumn or winter time. Okay, question number 2. Is there a place that ships other orchids not sold in stores? I have everything shipped to me, thanks. Yes, absolutely. I think you live in the US, since you said you have something from rePotme. You have in the US a multitude of wonderful nurseries to choose from. All you need to do is Google them. I personally have never ordered from them. It's impossible. They don't offer like phytosanitary certificates and stuff. And like importing from outside of the EU, not allowed. Organics, I mean, not allowed. So I don't know from personal experience. If you have some suggestions for our viewer here, let us know in the comments below. But I always tend to hear about Hausermann orchids. There are some in Hawaii as well. I don't know, you just have to Google them. Orchid Nursery USA, or the city or state you live in, maybe. You have so much variety. I'm so jealous sometimes that you guys have so much variety and like ease of ordering and stuff. When you live in Cyprus, most people don't deliver to you. Anyway, don't worry. You have where to choose from. You just have to Google them. I'm not the right person to give you recommendations since I live in the EU. Third questions. Do these orchids need transplanted every year? And if so, it's only in the fall, is that correct? My first one hasn't been transplanted in 5 years. I'm totally new to orchids, but he's still alive and I want to branch out. Okay, no, they don't need repotting every year. Absolutely not. A good rule of thumb, depending on materials, is every 2 years. But you know what? My Phalaenopsis are in the same mixes for 4 years. They need repotting at this point. They really do, but they're okay. Phalaenopsis are some of the strong ones. I wouldn't do that maybe to an oncidium, but I don't know. So it depends on the materials. You can have very, very, very poor quality sphagnum moss. I had it. It broke down in a few months. But the sphagnum moss that I use now is very good quality, lasts years upon years. It's always mentioned down below in the description. It's the best grow one. So it depends on the materials. You can get away with more than 2 years, absolutely, if the medium is okay and you have a Phalaenopsis, which has robust roots. Absolutely fine. Your first orchid hasn't been transplanted in 5 years, that's okay, but you might have roots instead of potting medium at this point in the pot. So the thing is, we tell you these things in tutorials just to make things safe for you, right? Of course there's wiggle room, there's always wiggle room, but it's easier to play with these rules and break these rules when you're more experienced, because you know exactly how much to push the envelope and where the limit is. There's always a limit. Always. There's a border that we don't trespass. We just don't. It's gonna be bad. But it's not the one we tell you about in the beginner tutorials. In the beginner tutorials, we want you to have a pleasant experience with orchids, not be like, oh, I got it wrong somehow, I don't know how, I'm never gonna grow orchids again. Even though that still happens, the safer you are, the more likely it is that you're gonna have a good experience with orchids. So yeah, don't worry all that much. Observation really is the key to everything, so be sure you keep an eye on your orchids, but don't stress all that much. Right, I've grown everything else, vegetables and flowers inside and outside, so I think you have a green thumb already. I think you know what to look for. Thanks for your help in advance. Keep doing what you're doing. It's been so beneficial to me. Take care, Sheila. I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy that I have this impact. It's amazing. I don't realize it and I forget it many of the times. And I'm sorry I do. But it's wonderful to hear that I have an impact on you. Right, so that is about it for today. How many questions do I still have left here? Many. 4 more episodes. Oh gosh. Should we do one more? Let's do one more because I feel like it's not enough for today. Right. Let's answer Diana as well. Hi Danny, I have 4 mini phals and 2 of them are not blooming at all. 2 have bloomed and 2 not at all. I have repotted them last year. What do you think is the issue here? Thanks for your videos. Well, there could be many things. I would go straight to temperature. That tends to be the most common problem. Some Phalaenopsis don't need a very drastic cool down to initiate flower spikes. If you go down to 20, 21 degrees Celsius, convert them into Fahrenheit, it's fine. But some need a little bit lower temperatures. Depends on the hybrid. So I would try to look at how much you cooled down your Phalaenopsis, and if the temperature in their environment did not go to 17, 18 degrees Celsius, I would say that that's the problem. That's the most common problem usually. And I would try maybe next year, if it's summer now in your area, try next year to cool them down more. Maybe put them closer to the window or put them maybe in a garage, depending on, you know, where you live and your environment. Try to cool them down in the nighttime. You don't need to cool them down all the time. In the nighttime, try to make sure they're getting these temperatures. You can even put them outside, only in the night. In a few weeks, they should start to do something. They should start to move. I'm moving all of this desk. Let's take one more. Maybe a small question and we're done. All right. So, hi Danny, wondering if you can talk about how long it takes a severely dehydrated phal or a rootless phal to return to normal. I have one that someone gave me. Honey, I'm in a hurry. Okay, sing. Beautiful. Beautiful voice. I have one that someone gave me to revive. It has been 5 months and there is some new root growth, but I didn't know it would take this long. Is that normal? Absolutely. Yes, there is no set time for how long it takes for an orchid to bounce back. It depends on many reasons, starting with how severe it was dehydrated, ending with your environment. In cooler temperatures, orchids will not grow vegetatively as well, if at all. So if you live in the northern hemisphere, we're just coming out of, you know, spring, maybe temperatures were a little cooler. And yeah, 5 months ago, yeah, definitely temperatures were very cold. Maybe you didn't have enough light, depending on many factors. Yes, it can take this long, don't worry about it. Just do what you do. If already you see some root growth, that is great. I think the orchid is on the right path. And with that said, let's end it here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Hope you've enjoyed this Q&A session, and I have more Q&As for you guys. I'll try to answer faster, but I don't know how to get through more of them. But yeah, don't worry, I do still have a lot of them. If you did not hear your question yet, hang on, I might get to it next time. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you rePotme for sponsoring yet another episode. And with that said, I hope you'll have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye.